As an anime content creator, one of the most common questions I get is, where's the next season of ReZero? Do you know when the next season is? Well, I have some unfortunate news for everybody. I had discovered the location of ReZero's next season. They settled down with Higurashi When They Cry, and they had a baby called Summertime Render, so I don't think you're going to be seeing ReZero anytime soon. But jokes aside, don't turn this off if you're not a big fan of ReZero. I'm not saying that Summertime Rendering is ReZero. It's just there's some similarities there that it's kind of hard to ignore. But I really do think Summertime Rendering is doing something completely different that ReZero wasn't doing. ReZero is more about brute force, whereas Summertime Rendering is a lot of mystery, and it's mystery that I'm eating up. But this is my impressions on the first episode of Summertime Render, or Summertime Rendering, depending on how you read it. A 25 episode series that is airing in the spring 2022 anime season. Unfortunately, stuck in Disney Plus hell. My assumption is that we're probably not going to get the series at least in the North America region, just because, yeah, pretty violent. And as I've kind of mentioned before, while other regions seem to handle Disney Plus differently, I don't necessarily see this being something that's handled well in the US, but we'll see. It could pop up there, but unfortunately had to get it through the other methods. But I am enjoying it, and it is a series I will be keeping an eye on. But this is my impressions on the first episode of the series, so let's jump into it. First off, I'm going to do full-on spoilers for the first episode. I have not read the source material. I don't know anything about that, but I will say that I do recommend people going in completely blind in the first episode. Again, note that it's going to be violent, but I do think this is a series that you should just jump into. And so I will be covering the first episode, full-on spoilers for that first episode, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody. So keep that in mind. If you want to go watch the first episode, then come back here and check out my impressions. That's perfectly fine. But if you're not checking out the series and you're looking for a reason to, a first impression that's spoiler-filled for the first episode might be what you need. To give a quick synopsis on what's unfolded in the first episode, we essentially have Shinpei is returning home after 2 years of being away. And as he's arriving there, he has a dream about Ushio, this girl that he knew when he was a child. Actually, Ushio was a part of a family that took Shinpei in when his parents died 10 years ago. And Ushio, after giving him a present, which is where she touched his head and something happened, which we can assume what that is later on, Ushio tells Shinpei to look for her and also to protect her sister. And that's when we find out that Shinpei is coming home for the funeral of Ushio. So while he's dreaming about her, she's actually passed away. Apparently she was involved in an accident where she was trying to rescue a girl who was drowning, and she ended up dead in the process. Well, some questions arise during this funeral as we find out that an autopsy was performed on Ushio, which kind of, indicates that something actually bad happened. It wasn't just an accident. Well, after Shinpei talks to his friend, he ends up finding out that Ushio actually had strangle marks on her body, which kind of indicates that she was strangled to death, not that she drowned. And it makes matters worse, the girl that she actually rescued, her entire family suddenly disappears. So we're kind of adding mystery upon mystery. And something actually comes up in a conversation between both Shinpei, Ushio's sister Mio, as well as some random stranger who's a hunter named Nezu, that there's a sort of mystery about this island, these things known as shadows that essentially appear as a doppelganger, and if you see this doppelganger, they will kill you, and then they will kill your family. And Mio reveals that the girl that Ushio saved had seen one of these doppelgangers before, and so she believes that this shadow came and actually killed her family. And not only that, but Ushio herself also seen a doppelganger. So it kind of gives some credit to this weird mystery that's kind of been around for a long time. And this all, of course, leads us to the crazy twist at the very end, which, again, soft spoilers for the first episode. Shinpei and Mio head to this one shrine that is claimed to be a place to cleanse this shadow from you, and they end up seeing somebody in the bushes. And when they go to investigate, they end up finding this one lady pretty much dying. And then, yes, Mio's shadow, as we're kind of assuming at this point, appears and kills everybody. So, and then, yes, Shinpei resets back to the point in which he's first arriving to the island. So, again, a lot of question marks. And again, like I said, a lot of feels of ReZero here. The save the girl, die, reset kind of thing that's kind of applying here. So yeah, my thoughts on Summertime Render. I am really enjoying this series so far, and it's not really for the whole reset factor. And I know it's like the super violent, crazy stuff at the very end is probably something that a lot of people are immediately jumping to. But for me, yes, that stuff is there, but it's really the stuff that's leading up to it, the question marks that it's creating, and all the what the hell just happened kind of stuff that's obviously going to play here. And I think that's what a lot of people kind of feel with that, with the ending of the first episode, is that sense of what? Like the what moments that kind of arise. But I think I was getting the feeling that I was going to enjoy this series long before that, because as the story went along, it points out things that make you wonder, what? Why did it point that out? And I think that's where that's the nugget. Like we're only an episode in, and I'm already having moments where I'm going, but if I rewatch this, I'm probably gonna get something different out of it. Like it has that feeling of a rewatchability already, even with its first episode. I kind of note the fact that why did Ushio tell him to look for her? Well, the question mark that's already rising in my head is the person in the coffin even Ushio? Is it not the doppelganger? It makes you question mark. Why would she ask him to look for her when she's already dead? Well, it indicates that probably she's seen her doppelganger, and she may have killed the doppelganger. The body shows up, everybody believes she's dead, and then she has to go into hiding. What was the flash at the funeral? Why was there a flash? Why was there so much emphasis that there was a flash at the funeral? Was somebody taking her picture to investigate it? Who was outside of the house? Was it Mio or was it the doppelganger? The immediate assumption there is probably it's the doppelganger at that point because she's just standing out there staring. If it was the real Mio, why would she look so kind of off? But I think that's a question that we're going to get answered if we ever get a perspective of what Tetsu's seen, because Tetsu showed up and he's like, what are you doing out here, Mio? But again, why was he clicking his tongue later on? Was that the doppelganger? I'm already in the mindset that everybody's a doppelganger that's at the forefront and probably everybody else is in the background, because it makes me believe that maybe Tetsu was a doppelganger there, just playing out as if he was the actual person. But I can already make an assumption that Mio, long before this, could have been a doppelganger as well. Why was she so kind of off? Like, she was so off the entire episode. It's like she was having these little swings in her mood. Why would she tell Shinpei, I will kill who murdered Ushio? Well, is it because she's playing so much into the role as a doppelganger that she's getting emotional? Or is she angry that Ushio killed her doppelganger? And the other thing that was in my notes that I kind of highlighted while I was watching the show was obviously Shiori being revealed to have seen one of these shadows. So the assumption is already that maybe at the funeral, it was already a doppelganger. She'd already probably killed the real Shiori, or maybe she possibly seen the murder. That's a possibility as well. Did she see Ushio kill herself, and so she's just completely broken at that point? But again, it's already hinting at the idea that she's seen her shadow, so the shadow probably already killed her and took out the entire family. That's why everybody disappeared. Oh, I almost forgot. The other note that I put down while I was watching the show was somebody asking Shinpei, did you find the lady you were looking for? It was obviously pointing out this lady that he met on the boat, this big-chested, glasses-wearing girl. They were claiming that he was looking for her. And he's like, you're obviously drunk, and it's way too early to be drunk or whatever, something like that. But it's like, it's already indicating at that point that there is a doppelganger of Shinpei. So he hasn't seen that shadow yet, but the shadow is there. Which makes you really question how many there is. I guess it's a big question mark. Does the shadow kind of take over in the form of people, kill their family, and then take on the form of another person? Is there multiple doppelgangers, or is there just one? The Nezu guy kind of claimed that the whole idea of the shadows was a disease. It was an illness. That if you've seen this shadow, it was almost like you had some sort of illness. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be some form that kind of goes around and takes on the form of people. It kind of indicates that if it's an illness, that you can essentially have a whole bunch of doppelgangers. Like, everybody that gets inflicted by this is going to produce a doppelganger, and it'll kill their families and the person themselves. But again, that leads into my whole reason why I'm loving this show so far. I'm already having all these question marks created from every single scene, and that's what I think makes a really fantastic mystery. Now, it could totally bomb after this and just get completely repetitive, and that's obviously the fear. You have a reset factor, and I think ReZero was so good at it, the reset factor, because I always loved the different perspectives the writer took with each character. Each reset was kind of a different perspective of the same situation, but then kind of getting into the minds of different characters. And yes, you had the overall world that it was kind of revealing as well at the same time that always kept my interest. This one obviously is not going to have the world factor. It's modern time Japan, there's my assumption. So there's nothing here that's going to be revealed in this world that's going to be interesting besides the whole doppelganger shadow aspect. That's going to be the thing that's going to be the mystery that we're going to dig into, as well as obviously the characters and what they think of the situation. But again, Shinpei's, I guess, shifts in how he can take on the situation that's in front of him, which is obviously an unmovable object. It's the idea of taking on something that just isn't natural. The characters so far are pretty solid. I think Shinpei has already kind of been a character that I'm just fine with. He's not doing anything that I hate or that I'm super positive about. He seems like a normal person that seems to have a desire to at least make right what's wrong, and I think that's going to be a good driving force for him to push forward. I'll be interested to see how he handles the situation going forward, because all we really have is like a very brief snapshot of him after the reset, and it's just him with his face inside this lady's chest. But how is he going to handle that situation going forward is going to be the question mark. Is he just going to... We'll probably have one single moment of like, I've already done this. This feels weird. Like a little bit of maybe like a very strong case of deja vu. He's obviously, it doesn't seem like well, I guess we don't really have an idea of how much he remembers. So I guess that's going to be the question mark. Again, playing back on the whole idea of this being a merge between ReZero and Higurashi when they cry is how much will Shinpei remember? With Higurashi, they don't really remember anything. Well, with this one, possibly it could be. With the other characters, I think they're fine. I've not really gotten too much time to spend with any of the side characters besides maybe Mio. I don't really have an opinion on her so far. I think she's obviously going through a terrible situation. But again, is she or is it the doppelganger? I don't trust anybody at this point. Doppelgangers just throw a big, huge wrench in my ability to really get into characters. It's hard to really gravitate to characters when you know that anybody could be a doppelganger. It could just be her doppelganger persona. Visually, so far, it looks great. I hope OLM can keep up this quality throughout the entire 25 episodes. But so far it looks good. They do have ecchi in the show, so keep that in mind. It kind of seemed out of place, but it was funny. But at the same time, that's another one of those aspects that kind of makes me believe this isn't going to end up on Disney North America. I kind of wish that they'll just give it to, maybe hand the license off to Crunchyroll to stream it or something like that. But it is what it is, but yeah, keep that in mind. I mean, it was only like maybe 1 or 2 or 3 scenes that were kind of ecchi in nature. Very harem-y type of ecchi, so it kind of feels a little bit out of place. I'll be perfectly honest. With the story, it's going to go more for like a serious, again, mystery and very violent psychological type of story. So to have the ecchi in there, I don't mind it, but I do understand that it feels a little out of place. It's one of those things that just makes it like, oh, this is a really cool story, great mystery and all this kind of stuff, and you want to suggest it to people that aren't into anime, and they're like, why was there like a 5-minute slow motion shot of Mio flying with her underwear showing kind of thing? Anyways, I'm really excited about this series. I am looking forward to it. 25 episodes, a lot of stuff to get through, so hopefully it doesn't get repetitive at any point. But so far, it's got its claws in me so far. Just with how much it's doing the sprinkle of mystery and question marks that you create as you're watching it, which I eat it up. I love it so much. I guess my crazy predictions is that Shinpei 10 years ago was probably swapped at that point, and we were basically following the doppelganger as he's lived his life after 10 years of seeing the shadow. Again, I've already kind of hinted at the idea that I believe Ushio probably seen her shadow and then killed it, and so the one they're burying is the doppelganger. But that's pretty much the extent of all my crazy theories so far. But I'll probably be covering this show on a weekly basis, so definitely look forward to my video each week. I gotta figure out exactly what date it's on. I think it's Thursday, but it's a little bit kind of, question mark as to when it actually gets posted on not Disney Plus. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment, let me know what's out of this series, or if you're going to be checking it out. Subscribe if you haven't already so you can get all my coverage. I do first impressions of all the shows of the season, as well as covering certain shows on a weekly basis, as well as doing news coverage, top lists, and all that kind of stuff. If it's anime, it's here. Additionally, if you want to support us more, we have a Patreon link and a tips link in the description below, as well as a merch site. We definitely appreciate everybody that supports us, and y'all take care.